Have you ever wondered why some men can walk into a room and shift the entire atmosphere without saying a single word? It is not their money. It is not their looks. It is something invisible, yet undeniable. A presence that commands respect without asking for it. A silence that speaks louder than noise. I once heard a story about a man who worked in the docks of New York. He had no fancy clothes, no wealth, no position of power. But whenever he appeared, conversations slowed down, men straightened their backs, and even the rowdiest workers lowered their voices. He never demanded attention. He simply carried an energy that made others take notice. Some said it was confidence. Others said it was discipline, but the truth was far deeper. He was not enslaved by the hunger that controlled everyone else. His eyes were calm when others were restless. His mind was clear when others were clouded. Most men live like prisoners, chasing approval, devouring glances, letting desire leak from every gesture. They believe this is natural, but what if it isn't? What if the system has trained their eyes to consume and their hearts to crave endlessly? What if their very energy is being drained without them realizing it? Carl Jung once said that until the unconscious is made conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Look around. The billboards, the songs, the endless streams of images designed to stir your instincts. They are not feeding you. They are feeding on you. While most are trapped in this invisible net, a few men have broken free. They discovered something rare, something that turns them into a quiet force, impossible to ignore. The question is, what happens when a man is no longer ruled by his own desire, when his energy is no longer leaking into the world, but burning like a hidden fire inside him? Have you ever noticed how certain moments in your daily life feel like whispers from something beyond? You wake in the middle of the night from the same dream, over and over. It isn't violent, it isn't spectacular, but it leaves you unsettled, as if a hidden hand is pressing the same message into your subconscious until you finally stop and listen. Or perhaps you catch yourself glancing at the clock, and the numbers always seem to repeat, 11:11, 3:33, 4:44. At first you laugh it off, coincidence, you think. But then it happens again and again until you begin to wonder, is the universe counting with me? Or am I being counted by it? There are other times when your body speaks before your mind understands. A sudden tightness in your chest as someone enters the room. A chill down your spine when you're about to make a choice that seems logical, but something in you resists. You tell yourself it's stress, exhaustion, nothing more. Yet deep down, you know it is not random. It feels like a warning. A signal written in a language older than words. Think of the mornings when you wake up with a strange heaviness, as if you've carried someone else's burden in your sleep. Or the afternoons when you're walking down a crowded street and suddenly, for no reason at all, you feel you must stop just for a moment because your soul recognizes something invisible in the air. These are not accidents. These are not glitches in your mind. They are signs placed in the cracks of ordinary life, hoping you'll pause long enough to see them. And then there are the encounters, meeting someone for the first time and feeling as if you've known them for centuries. Or the opposite, an instant recoil, an unexplainable sense that your spirit knows what your mind refuses to admit. These sensations come before logic, before explanation. They live in the realm Jung described as the unconscious, the place where symbols speak and where truth wears a mask. You may have ignored these signals in the past, brushing them away with rational thoughts. But tell me honestly, hasn't there been at least one moment in your life when you felt that reality itself was trying to communicate with you? As if life wasn't random at all, but choreographed, designed to wake you up from the hypnosis of routine. Most people suppress these whispers because the world tells them to. Society wants you to believe that only what is visible, measurable, and profitable matters. That dreams are meaningless, numbers are coincidence, intuition is foolishness. But the ancient traditions, The mystics, and even modern psychology point to another truth. The unconscious mind and the universe itself are constantly in dialogue. And those who dare to listen begin to see patterns that others miss. Imagine the cost of ignoring these signs. A man who dismisses his recurring nightmares as just stress may never see that his soul is warning him of a destructive path. A woman who ignores the ache in her heart every time she steps into her job may never realize that her spirit is calling her to a different destiny. A young person who keeps encountering the same numbers, the same symbols, but shrugs them off as weird coincidences, may never discover that life itself is begging them to wake up. These signals are not interruptions, they are invitations. Invitations to rise above the noise, to pierce the veil, to confront the hidden architecture shaping your choices. They may come as a whisper, a repetition, a sensation in the body, or a sudden knowing that cannot be explained. But once you acknowledge them, you begin to see that reality is layered, and every layer hides a truth waiting to be revealed. And here lies the great mystery. If the universe is speaking to us in these subtle ways, what exactly is it trying to say? Among all the mysterious signs that appear in our lives, there is one that stands above the rest, a signal so ancient, so universal, that it has been written in sacred texts, whispered in the rituals of mystery schools, and confirmed by countless personal experiences. It is the sign of repetition. When something repeats, when a pattern insists on showing itself, it is not chance. It is a message that refuses to be ignored. Think of the numbers that return to you again and again. 1111 glowing on a digital clock, 777 on a receipt, 333 when you wake suddenly in the night. At first, the rational mind dismisses them. It's random. It's coincidence. Yet the ancients never believed in coincidence. In Hebrew thought, numbers were not mere quantities. They were qualities, vibrations, carriers of divine codes. In Greek philosophy, Pythagoras taught that numbers were the building blocks of the cosmos, the secret music of creation itself. And in the Bible, how often do we see the power of numbers repeating as signs of God's presence? 40 days in the desert, 12 tribes of Israel, 7 seals of revelation. Each repetition was not random, but intentional, carrying meaning beyond words. 7, the number of completion. 12, the number of divine government. 40, the number of testing and transformation. These patterns whisper the same truth. Repetition is the handwriting of the unseen world upon the visible. Now look at your own life. Why do certain faces, places, or even dreams keep coming back to you? Why does the same lesson repeat until it hurts? Carl Jung had a name for this: synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that are not accidents, but mirrors between the inner and the outer world. He taught that when a symbol repeats, it is the unconscious trying to break through the walls of the rational mind. It is the soul's cry. Pay attention. Something inside you seeks to awaken. Imagine a man who dreams of a river again and again. At first he ignores it, but then he sees the word river in a book, hears someone mention it in conversation, and notices a painting of a river in a cafe. The river is not chasing him. His soul is pushing him to notice the flow, to release, to stop resisting the currents of life. If he dismisses it, the lessons grow harder. If he listens, the door to transformation opens. The hidden meaning of these repetitions is that you are not alone in your journey. Life is speaking, heaven is speaking. Call it the unconscious, call it angels, call it God. The truth is that something greater is reaching out. But only those with eyes to see and ears to hear will notice. As Jesus once said, "He who has ears, let him hear." The same words echo through all traditions. When a sign repeats, it is sacred. This is why the system wants you to think it's nothing. Because once you start seeing the patterns, you begin to wake up from the spell. You stop being predictable. You stop consuming without question. You begin to realize that reality itself is alive, and it is teaching you in every moment. A repeating dream, a sequence of numbers, an image that keeps appearing. These are the cracks in the veil where the light leaks through. But what does it truly mean when the signs repeat? It means that destiny itself is trying to bring you back to alignment. It means that your unconscious and the universe are conspiring to wake you up to your path. It means that life refuses to let you sleep. And once you recognize this, you begin to live with a different awareness. You walk as if every step could contain a message, as if every glance could carry truth. This is the first great secret. Repetition is revelation. It is not noise, it is signal. And if you learn to listen, your entire existence begins to take on new clarity. Pause for a moment and think what has been repeating in your life lately. Which numbers, dreams, or encounters keep pressing against your awareness? These are not accidents. They are invitations to step into a deeper reality. And if you have felt this truth resonate inside you, let this be the beginning of something greater. I invite you, quietly but sincerely, to join this circle of seekers. Click the like button, subscribe, and become part of this community where we explore the hidden knowledge others overlook. Together, we will not just hear about secrets, we will live them. Because if the first secret is that repetition reveals meaning, then the question that waits in the shadows is even more dangerous. Who is sending the signs, and why now? There was once a woman named Sarah living in a quiet suburb outside Chicago. To anyone who saw her from the outside, she had everything in order. A stable job, a modest home, a circle of friends who thought she was strong and independent. But inside, Sarah carried an ache she couldn't explain. She often described it as a hollow space in her chest, a silence that echoed even in moments of laughter. It began subtly. She noticed she was waking up at exactly 3:33 every night. At first, she shrugged it off. Insomnia, stress, maybe the neighbor's dog barking. But after weeks of the same pattern, always the same numbers glowing on her digital clock, she began to feel uneasy. Why always 3:33? She asked herself. It wasn't just the waking, it was the feeling. Each time she opened her eyes, she felt a presence in the room, not threatening, not frightening, but heavy, like the air itself was trying to tell her something. Then came the dreams, a river flowing endlessly, black water under a pale moon. She stood on the banks, unable to cross, hearing a whisper calling her name. Always the same scene, always the same whisper. She would wake with tears streaming down her face, her pillow damp, her heart racing. One morning, while waiting for her train to the city, Sarah glanced at a billboard. It was an advertisement for a travel agency, and in bold letters across a blue background were the words, "Follow the river." She froze. Her palms went cold. It was the exact phrase she had heard whispered in her dream. For a moment she thought she might faint. That day marked the beginning of her unraveling. She began seeing rivers everywhere, paintings in cafes, mentions in conversations, songs on the radio. Each time, the same shiver went down her spine. She tried to ignore it, but the repetition was relentless. The message was clear. She was being pursued by something larger than herself. Her breaking point came one evening at dinner with friends. As they chatted and laughed, she drifted into silence, staring at the wine swirling in her glass. Suddenly, she felt the unmistakable sensation that she was drowning, gasping for air, the weight of invisible water pressing down on her chest. She rushed to the bathroom, trembling. In the mirror, her own eyes looked foreign, as if someone else was staring back at her. The next day, she sought guidance. Not from a therapist, not from a priest, but from an old neighbor she remembered as a child, a quiet man named Daniel, who was rumored to be strange. He lived in a small house filled with books, candles, and the faint smell of incense. When she told him about the numbers, the dreams, and the rivers, he simply nodded. "You're being called," he said softly. "Called to what?" she asked. her voice breaking. To yourself, to the part of you you've been ignoring. Nas, he explained that the river was an ancient symbol of transition, the flow between one stage of life and the next. In biblical stories, the Jordan River marked the crossing into the Promised Land. In myth, the river Styx separated the living from the dead. For Sarah, the repeated symbol was not about geography, but about transformation. She was being asked to let go of the life she thought she had to live and step into the one her soul was truly yearning for. Tears streamed down her face. For the first time, the hollow in her chest made sense. She'd been living safely, comfortably, but not authentically. The river wasn't outside, it was inside her. The whispers weren't random. They were her own soul, knocking from the depths. From that day, Sarah began making changes. Small at first, writing down her dreams, meditating for a few minutes in the morning, paying attention to the coincidences around her. But as she listened more closely, her life began to shift in ways she could never have planned. The job that once drained her lost its grip. A new opportunity opened where she could use her gifts. Relationships that felt heavy quietly dissolved, making space for ones that nourished her spirit. Months later, standing by the edge of Lake Michigan at sunrise, Sarah felt something she had never felt before: peace. The numbers still appeared, the river still flowed in her dreams, but now she understood. They were not warnings, they were reminders. Reminders that life was speaking to her, guiding her, shaping her. And if it could happen to Sarah, could it be happening to you? Have you dismissed your own repeating signs, your own whispers as just coincidence? Or is it possible that life has been calling you too, patiently, persistently, waiting for you to notice? If you've ever felt a sign, through a dream, a number, a sudden knowing, I invite you to share it in the comments. Tell your story, however small it may seem. I read each one, and in future videos I may even share your experience so that others can learn from it. Because your story may be the very key that unlocks someone else's awakening. And here is the real mystery. If the river was calling Sarah into a new life, what is the hidden symbol calling you toward? If the first secret is that repetition is never random but a revelation, the second is even more intimate. It is not written on clocks or billboards. It does not come through dreams or whispers in the night. The second great sign arrives through the most mysterious instrument you possess, your own body. How many times have you felt a sudden tightness in your chest, a heaviness in your stomach, or a chill across your skin with no logical explanation? Doctors may call it stress. Friends may tell you it's nerves. But deep down, you know when it's something more. The body is the antenna of the soul. It carries wisdom that the mind has forgotten how to listen to. In ancient cultures, this truth was obvious. The Hebrews spoke of the lev, the heart, not only as an organ, but as the seat of understanding. The Greeks used the word pneuma to describe both breath and spirit, as if the lungs themselves were a bridge to the divine. And in the Christian scriptures, Paul speaks of the body as a temple of the Holy Spirit. The ancients understood what modern society denies. When the spirit wants to speak, the body trembles with its language. Think about it. You are about to make a decision that looks perfect on paper, maybe a job offer or a new relationship. Yet something in you resists. Your chest feels heavy, your breath shallow. You smile on the outside, but every cell inside whispers, "Don't." That is not fear, that is guidance. Or consider the opposite, a path that seems uncertain, even irrational. Yet when you picture it, your body floods with calm, your shoulders relax, your heartbeat slows. That, too, is guidance. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious mind speaks in symbols, but those symbols are not only seen in dreams, they are felt in the flesh. a headache that appears only in the presence of a certain person, a sudden surge of energy when you walk into a new place, goosebumps when you hear certain words. These are not random. They are the body translating spiritual truth into physical language. The second secret then is this: your body is a compass for hidden realities. It knows before you know. It feels before you think. And when you learn to listen, you will no longer walk blindly through life. You will be guided step by step by the very temple you inhabit. But how do you access this hidden compass in a world that teaches you to ignore it? Here is a simple practice that you can try right now. Find a quiet place. Sit down, close your eyes, and take 3 slow breaths. Inhale through your nose. Let your lungs expand, then exhale slowly through your mouth. Bring to mind a choice you are facing. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be as simple as whether to accept an invitation, or as big as a career move. Notice your body's reaction. Don't overthink, just feel. Does your chest tighten? Do your shoulders tense? Do you feel restless, anxious, heavy? Or do you feel a softening, a sense of lightness, calm, expansion? Honor what you feel. If the body resists, pause. If the body relaxes, consider that it may be pointing you toward alignment. This practice is not superstition, it is alignment with how you were designed. For thousands of years, prophets, mystics, and sages have described this inner sense. Today, science calls it the vagus nerve, the gut-brain connection, somatic intelligence. Call it what you will, the principle is the same. The body speaks the truth the mind tries to drown out. Imagine what would change in your life if you began to honor these signals. How many mistakes would you avoid? How many wrong paths would you never take? How much suffering would dissolve if you simply trusted the wisdom written into your flesh? The body never lies. It may whisper, it may ache, it may scream, but it never lies. The next time you feel your stomach twist before signing a contract, listen. The next time your heart feels heavy when you're with someone, listen. The next time your skin tingles when you hear a phrase, listen. These are not distractions, they are directions. And perhaps the most astonishing truth is this: when you begin to listen to your body, it starts to heal. The symptoms that once tormented you shift because they no longer need to scream for your attention. The migraines, the insomnia, the restless tension, all of them may soften once you understand their hidden role. They were never enemies, they were messengers. So, if repetition is revelation, the second secret is that sensation is communication. The universe, your unconscious, and even God himself can speak through the sacred temple of your body. And this wisdom is available to everyone, not just mystics, not just prophets, not just the gifted. Anyone who pauses, breathes, and listens can access it. That includes you. But here lies the great suspense. If signs can speak through numbers and through the body, what happens when the signs come from a place even deeper? Beyond dream, beyond flesh, from the very core of existence itself. Few know of this third sign, fewer still have lived it. And once revealed, it changes everything. There is a sign deeper than numbers, deeper than dreams, deeper even than the language of your own body. It does not appear outside of you. It does not whisper in clocks or tremble through your flesh. This sign lives at the very center of existence itself, in the silence that connects all things. It is the third and greatest signal, the resonance of presence. When you are touched by it, you know. There is no argument, no rational explanation, only the sudden weight of eternity pressing upon a single moment. You could be standing in line at the grocery store or sitting by a window with the morning light, and suddenly everything feels different. The world sharpens, the air vibrates, the boundaries between yourself and everything else dissolve. For an instant, you are no longer just you. You are part of a vast, luminous current that flows through all things. Mystics of every age have spoken of this. The prophets called it the voice of God. The desert fathers called it the still small voice. Eastern sages called it awakening, and modern physics dares to name it quantum entanglement. Particles separated by distance, yet bound in mysterious unity. Jung himself described it as the meeting point of the conscious and the unconscious, where the self emerges as something larger than the ego, a center that is everywhere and nowhere at once. This is the deepest sign, the recognition that you are not separate, that your longing, your questions, your very heartbeat are already intertwined with the pulse of the universe. The sign does not appear to you, it is you, and when it reveals itself, the entire architecture of your life begins to make sense. Imagine for a moment, you are walking alone at night. The sky is wide, the stars infinite. Suddenly, you feel watched, not in fear, but in awe. You sense that the heavens are not indifferent, that every star, every gust of wind, every beat of your heart is aligned, like a symphony playing just for you. Tears come not because of sadness, but because the weight of meaning is too much for the body to contain. That is the third sign. It is what Jesus meant when he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." It is what the mystics meant when they described the marriage of heaven and earth inside the human soul. It is what science glimpses when it realizes that the observer and the observed are never truly separate. You are not walking through life looking for signs. You are the sign. You are the living intersection of heaven and earth, spirit and flesh, time and eternity. And yet most of the world never tastes this. Why? Because they are too distracted, too divided, too lost in noise. The system thrives on keeping you away from silence because silence is dangerous. Silence is where you hear the eternal. Silence is where the veil rips. Silence is where you remember who you are. This is why what we are building here matters. This is why I must pause and ask you, if these words resonate, if you feel this truth stirring something ancient inside you, take a moment to subscribe and to like this video, not because of algorithms, not because of numbers, but because every action strengthens this community of seekers. This work is not done for profit, it is done for passion. And your presence here is proof that there are still souls who long for what is real, who refuse to live asleep. Each subscription, each click is like lighting a candle in the darkness, saying, "I am awake and I will walk this path with you." Because the greatest revelation is not only that signs exist, but that they exist to bring us together, to remind us that we are not fragments, but one body, one breath, one light, refracted through billions of souls. Think about your own life. Have you ever felt that unexplainable moment when everything aligned, a sudden stillness in prayer where you felt watched, a flash of intuition so strong it left no room for doubt? A moment in nature where the trees, the wind, the sky felt alive with your own heartbeat. That was not imagination. That was the third sign touching you, inviting you deeper. And here lies the great secret hidden beneath it all. Once you awaken to this resonance of presence, you cannot unsee it. You begin to notice the threads of connection everywhere, between conversations, between encounters, between losses and gains. Life itself becomes prophecy, every step a verse in a song sung before time began. But there is still one mystery left, one truth so vast that even the mystics spoke of it in whispers. It is not about signs anymore, it is about destiny. If the first signs awaken you, and the final sign shows you who you are, then the last revelation is about what you are called to do with it. And that calling is the greatest secret of all. Every sign we explored, the numbers that repeat, the body that whispers, the presence that overwhelms, was never meant to be an isolated event. They are threads in a greater tapestry, woven together by something beyond imagination. They are the gentle knocks on the door of your consciousness, reminding you that life is not random, that your struggles are not meaningless, and that your soul has always been in conversation with eternity. Think about it. How many times have you asked yourself, why me? Why now? Why this path? And yet, if you look closely, The answers were hidden in the signs, the dreams that circled back like echoes, the sensations in your body that refused to be silenced, the sacred moments of alignment where everything felt charged with meaning. These were not fragments, they were messages. They were invitations to wake up to who you truly are. The truth is, the world around us is designed to distract, to exhaust, to keep us busy enough that we never notice these invitations. But once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you recognize that life itself is speaking, every breath becomes a conversation, every day becomes a chapter in a story that began before you were born. You are not simply living, you are being guided toward healing, toward truth, toward the person you were always meant to become. And that is why you are here, watching this right now. This is not an accident. Your presence in this moment is a sign in itself. When you begin to awaken, you realize you are part of something larger. You carry within you not just your personal story, but a piece of humanity's greater awakening. Your courage to notice, to feel, to listen becomes a light for others who are still lost in the noise. Every act of awareness, every choice to live from presence instead of fear creates a ripple that moves outward into the lives of countless others. This is the mission hidden inside the signs, to remember that you are more than a seeker, you are also a messenger. Just as Sarah's river guided her into a new life, just as your body signals and dreams whisper, so too your life will become a sign for others. The way you live, the energy you carry, the choices you make, they will speak louder than your words. And so we arrive at this moment together, a circle of seekers scattered across cities and countries, yet bound by the same hunger for truth, the same longing for what is real. This is not just a channel, it is a community, a sanctuary for those who refuse to sleepwalk through existence, who dare to ask the deeper questions, who are not afraid of the silence where eternity speaks. If these words touch something within you, I invite you to make this circle stronger. Subscribe to this channel, not as a number, but as a declaration that you belong to a living community of awakening souls. Click the like button, not just as support, but as a way of saying, I choose to honor this path, and leave a comment with your name and the city you are watching from. I will read it. And in the next video, I may mention you by name as part of this journey. Because no one walks alone. We are building this together, voice by voice, presence by presence. So tell us who you are, where you are, and let your light join ours. Imagine the power of a community spread across the world, each person carrying their signs, their stories, their awakenings, and all of us learning from one another. The signs have always been here. The question now is, will you answer them? Will you allow your life to become the living proof that spirit is alive, that destiny is real, that nothing is coincidence? Remember this, every ending is only a beginning in disguise. As we close this chapter, another mystery waits to be revealed, one even greater. One that has the power to shift everything you thought you knew about yourself and the world. And so I leave you with this final truth. The signs are not finished. They are only gathering. Something far more extraordinary is already on its way.